Welcome back to Club Chair Critique. My name's Logan. This video is the fifth in a series on the endings of Elden Ring. What themes drive their narratives, what philosophies they represent, and what choosing them may say about you. I've previously covered the 4 reform endings, 4 perspectives on what is wrong with the Golden Order, 4 ways to amend its governing laws embodied by the Elden Ring to right these wrongs. Despite their aesthetic and philosophical differences, they share a fundamental assumption that the best way to serve the lands between is to mend the Elden Ring and reform or maintain the Golden Order. This shared assumption is conveyed through the similarity of their ending cutscenes. Apart from a line or two of dialogue and some color grading, they're practically identical because they are variations of the same core belief. The Elden Lord must mend the Elden Ring and reform the Golden Order. The next ending is of a different kind. It is not interested in mending the Golden Order, but upending the whole of it to establish the Age of the Stars.
I do solemnly swear to every living being and every living soul, now cometh the Age of the Stars. 1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon. Here beginneth the chill night that encompasses all, reaching the great beyond. Let us go together.
The Age of the Stars is reached by completing Ranni's quest. As with the reform endings, the Age of the Stars is subtly foreshadowed in the game's intro cinematic. I recommend revisiting my video on the Age of Fracture for a refresher on how the reform endings are foreshadowed. If you need a general refresher or summary of Elden Ring, I give a quick and dirty overview in my video on the themes of its expansion. Do feel free to give that a quick watch and come back. Before the Tarnished are introduced in the intro cinematic, the events precipitating the Shattering are briefly summarized, including the Night of the Black Knives, after which we see a still of Ranni with her back to the viewer. The shot foreshadows 2 things. 1, it subtly implicates Ranni in the Night of the Black Knives before she reveals her actions in-game. And 2, it distinguishes her ending from those of the Tarnished by juxtaposing their respective stills. The Tarnished are all seen head-on in their stills as grace returns to them, their names declared with great drama and voiceover. Ranni, however, is turned away from the viewer, unnamed by the narrator. The difference between Ranni's still and those of the Tarnished conveys a difference in the endings they enable, a different solution for the lands between, one that turns from the Golden Order to establish something new. Ranni's first potential appearance to the player is as enigmatic as that of the intro cinematic. She introduces herself under the pseudonym Renna and gifts you with a crucial item, the spirit-calling bell and what is likely her first spirit ash, the Lone Wolves. Before leaving, she casts doubt on the mission of the Tarnished and the 2 Fingers.
How long will it be, I wonder, before the Tarnished tire of obeisance to the 2 Fingers?
Plenty of characters in the game cast aspersions on the 2 Fingers, but the timing of this dialogue stands out as important. A frequent From Software trope is a vague introduction to the game's setting, followed by a drip feed of information that complicates that introduction. Spoilers for some of From Software's back catalog incoming. Skip to the time on screen to avoid them. In Bloodborne, you were told by Gehrman, the founding Healing Church hunter, to go and kill a few beasts while you find yourself some pale blood, and help Yharnam in the process.
Just go out and kill a few beasts. It's for your own good.
You come to find out that the beasts were once townspeople of Yharnam, and that their transformation is symptomatic of the Healing Church's own crimes. In Dark Souls 3, you are tasked with hunting the resurrected Lords of Cinder, who have neglected to link the flame and continue the Age of Fire.
The lords have left their thrones,
and must be delivered to them.
You come to find out that the flame is fated to die soon anyway, and that rekindling the flame is resisting a natural cycle of fire and darkness. In both these examples, you can slowly piece this information together through item descriptions and a handful of pivotal plot points. Elden Ring mostly follows this format. You are told to kill shard bearers for their great runes, so you can repair the Elden Ring and re-establish the Golden Order.
Follow the guidance of grace. Lay low the shard bearers and claim for yourself a great rune.
You come to find out that the Golden Order is founded on brutal imperialism and systemic oppression. These revelations should call into question if and how the Golden Order should be re-established. Ranni's dialogue in the Church of Elay runs contrary to the usual pacing here, sowing a seed of doubt very early in the game. The other characters opposed to the Golden Order are not immediately so forthcoming. Vare bids you follow the prescribed path and go to the Round Table Hold before he tries recruiting you to become a bloody finger in Liurnia.
Indeed. Grace's guidance holds the answers. It will lead you tarnished to the path you are meant to follow.
Bernal actively discourages you from voicing doubts, and even in Volcano Manor warns you of the consequences of becoming a recusant.
Honest to a fault, I see. Such thoughts won't behoove you as a tarnished, but know that the path you walk is blasphemy and leads only to a miserable death. Before you consider hunting any of your own kind, think on that.
Both these characters follow From Software's typical pacing of their storytelling, but Ranni is bluntly suspicious from the beginning. The structure of her arc runs against conventions followed by other characters, and even the conventions of the genre, establishing her as an iconoclast, fundamentally different from other characters with an agenda for the lands between. We don't see Ranni again until we reach her rise behind Caria Manor, where we receive a proper and rather candid introduction. She is really Ranni the Witch, perpetrator of the Night of the Black Knives that killed Godwin's soul and liberated her own. She seeks to overturn the Golden Order entirely, and she wants to know if we want to help.
I stole death long ago, and search now for the dark path, that I might one day upend the whole of it, and rid the world of all that came before. Well, has that roused thy interest?
While we don't get any explicit details of Ranni's motivations here, she's given us another subtle insight into her values. The other characters in Elden Ring seeking to subvert the Golden Order are less than truthful in their intentions. Vare withholds information about the two fingers in the beginning, and is implied to have killed our Finger Maiden to recruit us.
Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless.
Lady Tanith plans to feed us to the god-devouring serpent, and cloaks Rykard's gluttonous aims in the noble language of resisting the Golden Order.
If the Erd Tree, and indeed the very gods, would debase us so, then we are willing to raise the banner of resistance, even if it means heresy. We at the Volcano Manor, under Lord Rykard, have sworn no rest until it is done.
Bernal is implied to have some knowledge of Rykard's true nature as well, given the weapon he wields as a recusant and his possession of the blasphemous claw. Jabiri implores us to save Melina by inheriting the frenzied flame, and before he starts to lose it,
May chaos take
he attempts to dignify the horror of his plan with some populist platitudes.
Chosen tarnished and would-be lord, dare to tread the path of true rigor.
Ranni does none of these things. She is plain about her aim to upend the Golden Order and her actions thus far to that end, especially if we have followed Roger's quest. She did use a pseudonym when first introducing herself, but given her willingness to cast doubt on the two fingers and the mission of the Tarnished so early, this reads to me less as deception to lure us into assisting her, and more as a precaution toward a Tarnished she doesn't know, beyond a tacit endorsement from Torrent's former master. But once we reach her rise, it's all cards on the table. No frills or platitudes, just the question. Wilt thou enter my service? When you say yes, you're introduced to her motley crew of co-conspirators, Blythe, Iji, and Celavis. Gatherings of this many named NPC characters are rare in Elden Ring outside of hubs like the Round Table Hold, lending this event a particular significance. As you descend the tower, you are introduced to Ranni's team in the same order that they came into her service. Their shared histories and the quality of their relationships with Ranni offer glimpses into her hitherto undisclosed motivations. E.g. is the Carrion royal family blacksmith, a giant wearing a variant of the Nox's mirror helm. We first met him outside the King's Realm ruins en route to Carrion Manor, where he is presumably posted to ward interlopers away. E.g. has known Ranni her whole life, and thus represents her Carrion legacy, the quiet power of the night sky that once fought the forces of the Erd Tree to a stalemate. The Carrions are a powerful contrasting symbol to the bright, brazen Golden Order, a recurring motif evoking sorcery, learning, and fate itself. While Ranni has a complicated relationship with her Carrion lineage, E.g.'s presence and loyalty confirms that she opposes the Golden Order, much as the Carrions first did in antiquity. Blythe is Ranni's shadow, bequeathed to her by virtue of being an Empyrean. We can meet Blythe early at the Mistwood Ruins, where we assist him in finding and killing Darrowil, a Bloodhound Knight implied to have been imprisoned for betraying his master. We thus learn immediately that Blythe values loyalty above all else, chiefly to his mistress Ranni. Blythe is an interesting symbol in that he represents Ranni's status as Empyrean, one that she resents. However, he maintained loyalty to her even after she discarded her great rune and left her corporeal body to escape the greater will, and he supports her now as she engages in further resistance. Selvis is of a different sort than E.g. and Blythe. He shares E.g.'s history of service to the Carrion Royals, evidenced by his preceptor garb and mask, but the similarities end there. He is an unambiguously despicable character. He is a sorcerer that turns others, often women, into puppets, and it is heavily implied that they are his unwilling sex dolls. He gives us a bottle of sorceress Rohypnol to give Nefeli without telling us its purpose, unless he feels that we share his perversion. Selvis's own quest involves an attempt to deceive Ranni and turn her into a sex doll as well, a plot that disappoints Ranni but does not represent an actual threat to her.
This is the third time, fiend. Enough of thy unbearable breath.
Since Ranni occupies a doll body,
Baby, you can't read the doll.
we can assume that it was made for her by Selvis. Given that he does not share Blythe and E.g.'s enthusiasm for her cause, we can further assume that he was drafted into Ranni's service and sworn to secrecy, hence the mask representing a vow of silence, like that previously worn by Radahn and Renala's attendants. Selvis's service to Ranni is a reminder that she is willing to partner with, or at least conscript, imperfect allies to accomplish her goals. Selvis has his uses, despite his detestable nature. He provided Ranni a body, and provides us with information to progress her quest. Even with these insights into Ranni's history, we have been told little about why she wants to overturn the Golden Order. However, her quest takes us through settings and events that convey her motivations, and illustrate why she may have the right idea for the lands between. Ranni tasks us with retrieving a treasure from the buried city of Nokron, which is not immediately accessible. After some fetch questing involving Blythe, Selvis, and Selen, we learn that to access Nokron we need to make for Redmane Castle, site of the Radahn Festival. Radahn? In a show of incredible strength, Ranni's brother arrested the movement of the very stars. For her fate to be realized, Radahn must be defeated and the stars freed. Radahn's motives for doing so are unknown, and much digital ink has been spilled in an effort to discern them. What is more important, I feel, is what this act represents. In life, Radahn was obsessed with the glory of the Golden Order's previous conquests. He decorated himself in regalia representing Godfrey, the Golden Order's first Elden Lord, and his Leonine Beast Regent. Radahn idolized them in their conquest of the lands between, and sought to emulate them by becoming the mightiest of warriors. Radahn is featured on the Star Scourge heirloom that boosts strength, identifying him as a paragon of strength itself. Following his infamous stalemate with Melania, his obsession with the glory of the past takes on a different character. Caelid and Radahn himself become afflicted with the Scarlet Rot. Radahn stalks the site of his stalemate, slowly losing his mind, physically and mentally stuck in the past. Still wearing the likeness of long-gone warlords, he consumes the wartime dead from both armies, symbolically sating himself with memories of past battles. He relives the past in a grisly parody of the battle that lost him his glory, and worse yet, he is not content to simply live in the past himself. He still holds the stars in stasis, holding the rest of the world back with him, halting fate itself. This vision of stagnation, of a willful denial of progress, is what stands between Ranni and her plan for the Lands Between. Until the Radahn Festival.
The celebration of war! The Radahn Festival!
With Radahn's defeat, you symbolically embrace the necessity of progress for the Lands Between, whatever form that will take. For now, Ranni's dark moon appears in the sky over the site of your victory, and the heavens open the way to Nokron. We've journeyed beneath the Lands Between at least once before, but now we get our first true look at Nokron, one of the Eternal Cities. The Nox and their cities are a powerful example of the Golden Order's imperialistic violence. As Marika's influence spread through the Lands Between, she incorporated what she could into the Golden Order, and buried what she couldn't. The Nox now live as a literal underclass, with other cultural remnants like the Ull and the Pests, victims of an imperialistic cycle of violence, their culture and history mostly lost to time. However, the Nox created a way to break that cycle. The Fingerslayer Blade, the treasure of Nokron that Ranni seeks. The blade's description cites it as the reason for the downfall of the Nox, as it represented a tangible threat to the Greater Will's envoys. The fact that it is a dagger implies a secret plot. A dagger is a weapon for assassination, inherently surreptitious, as opposed to more direct objects like swords or axes. In seeking this artifact, Ranni inherits this legacy of quiet resistance to the Golden Order, and in killing her two fingers, she will reject the influence of the Greater Will. Though such resistance is not without its costs, implied by these petrified corpses peppering Night's sacred ground. We'll come back to them shortly. First, however, we must help Ranni escape the Two Fingers assassins. After we give her the Fingerslayer Blade, she departs to follow her dark path, and this would seem to be farewell.
It was but brief, but thou gavest me fine service.
However, we can choose to follow her to the Onsel River outside Noxtella, another Eternal City, where we find her disguised as a smaller doll.
Oh, a dogged fellow, aren't we? Or is it merely thy habit to talk to dolls?
Thicker and juicier than ever. It's my third time around. Listen, Rue knows a bad bitch when she sees one.
If we bother her for a little bit, we set out together for Noxtella, charged with defeating the Two Fingers' baleful shadows as recompense. The trek through Noxtella provides more of Ranni's history and more environmental storytelling about the Nox. Below the other Eternal City, past more ruins of the Ull, is this enormous skeleton sitting on a throne, surrounded by more of these petrified corpses. A dragonkin soldier drops in to fight you, a sickly being synthesized by the Nox to imitate the might of the ancient dragons. Admittedly, until Shadow of the Erdtree came out, I did not know what to make of all this. I stumbled on a Reddit post that made me realize that the corpses here bear a striking resemblance to those in the stonework of Anir Illim, leading up to the Gate of Divinity, where Marika achieved godhood. These corpses and the Dragonkin soldier would together seem to imply that the Great Skeleton is another failed experiment of the Nox, another attempt to replicate the Golden Order's power, with disastrous consequences. Whatever the reason for these giant skeletons and the petrified corpses, they make one thing clear. The Nox may have suffered persecution by the Golden Order, but they were equally culpable in committing violence to seek power for themselves. Perhaps violence is required to obtain this kind of power. As we continue through Nokron, Ranni divulges more of her history and motives. You learn here of her former status as Empyrean, and the apparent reason for the Knight of the Black Knives was to escape this fate and the Greater Will itself.
I was once an Empyrean, of the demigods. Only I, Mikola, and Melania could claim that title, but I would not acquiesce to the Two Fingers. I stole the Rune of Death, slew mine own Empyrean flesh, casting it away. I would not be controlled by that thing.
You learn too that she must betray everything to tread her dark path, including those she cares for. Blythe, Iji, and perhaps you too. As a reward for defeating the last baleful shadow, Ranni gifts you with a key to a chest in the Grand Library of Raya Lucaria. That chest contains an engagement ring, effectively making this her proposal to you. The fact that Ranni's heartbroken mother sits a few feet away is no coincidence. Rennala is a reminder that matrimony can be a tool of oppression, and for this reason Ranni has inscribed on the ring a warning that she is perfectly content to wander the celestial void alone. This detour to Raya Lucaria and the slog through the Lake of Rot may seem at first like interruptions of Ranni's narrative, unrelated challenges in between receiving the Dark Moon ring and putting it on Ranni's hand. If these were unrelated, then the developers would likely have made them a part of a different quest, and written Ranni's quest such that after we defeat the Baleful Shadow, we receive the ring right away, and the game would find a way to teleport us right to the Moonlight Plateau. But the Lake of Rot is very much a vital part of Ranni's quest, and some great environmental storytelling in the From Software tradition. The detour to Raya Lucaria serves not only to remind us of Rennala's fate, but also to juxtapose the Academy with the Lake of Rot. From Software likes to place areas afflicted with rot or decay below other locations to convey a sense of corruption below the institution. In Bloodborne's DLC, we fight the deformed hunter Ludwig in the underground corpse pile below the Healing Church's research hall, conveying the bloodshed and madness hidden below the surface of this institution of healing and learning. In Dark Souls 3's DLC, there is a rotten, fly-infested basement below Frida's church, conveying the stagnation that Frida has allowed to fester in Ariandel. In Elden Ring, the subterranean shunning grounds where the Omen are imprisoned lie beneath Langdell, symbolizing the oppression on which the Golden Order is founded. And the Lake of Rot is below the Academy of Raya Lucaria. A map fragment for Liurnia tells us that, quote, the majority of Liurnia is sinking into a lake. The fetid Lake of Rot seems to be the cause, and yeah, there's a lore explanation in that the lake is where the essence of the goddess of Rot was sealed, but more importantly, it conveys thematically that the Academy is sinking into corruption. Perhaps this decline is a result of the Academy betraying Rennala after Radagon's departure. Perhaps it hints at some deeper corruption. In either case, this serves as a recognition that below all institutions of power is the capacity for corruption, even those led by sympathetic figures. If this feels like a coincidence, consider that the Estelle Arena is separated from the rest of the Ainzel River map, so it can still sit below the Moonlight Plateau. If placing the Lake of Rot below the Academy were not important, From Software could have connected the Lake of Rot and all the rest directly to the Estelle Arena. Instead, they are separated by Coffin Ride, so the Lake of Rot can lie squarely beneath Raya Lucaria. The path beyond Estelle's Arena is literally blocked until we go back to Raya Lucaria for the Dark Moon Ring, forcing this juxtaposition of settings to convey the corrupting influence of power. And if you needed a more forceful reminder that those who follow the stars are not always good, Estelle would like a word. Looming over the Moonlight Plateau is the Cathedral of Manicelis, below which we find Ranni, having just given the Fingerslayer blade a workout. You kneel and place the Dark Moon ring on her finger before the slain fingers. This shot frames this act as not only pledging yourself to Ranni, but also to her cause, rebellion against the tyranny of the greater will, against all tyranny. Ranni is pleased, and in the Carian tradition gives you the Dark Moon Greatsword. When you become Elden Lord, Ranni will become your consort instead of Marika. She departs for now to find her order.
I go now to the night sky. It is there I shall find mine order.
The Moonlight Plateau holds more than a scenic view for your engagement to Ranni. To the south is Kelowna's Rise, which holds the sorcery Ranni's Dark Moon. This sorcery is a contrasting partner to Rennala's Full Moon, with the Dark Moon motif connecting it to the ring and greatsword. The description reads, this moon was encountered by a young Ranni, led by the hand of her mother, Rennala. What she beheld was cold, dark, and veiled in occult mystery. The moon functions in Elden Ring much as it does throughout myth and literature. a symbol for feminine power associated here with the matriarchal rule of the Carian royal family. When Rennala beheld her moon, she recognized this power and the opportunity it offered, which she ultimately took. Ranni, however, perceived this power as mysterious, dark, and even dangerous. Per the description of the Snow Witch sorceries, Ranni's impression was reinforced by her mentor, the Snow Witch Renna, whose name and guise she later adopted. Based on these insights, I read Ranni's enmity for the Greater Will not as mere personal resentment of its plan for her, but as a suspicion of absolute power in general. It is no wonder then that the tyrannical Golden Order revolts her so, nor that she would seek to overturn it. There is a subtle clue to this attitude earlier in the game in Ranni's dialogue and in that of her followers. When she is referenced by Morgoth, Gideon, and Rogier, they call her Lunar Princess Ranni, emphasizing her Carian heritage.
Lunar Princess Ranni.
Lunar Princess Ranni, daughter to Rennala.
Lunar Princess Ranni.
However, she and her followers never use this title. They call her Lady Ranni, Mistress Ranni, or Ranni the Witch.
For Mistress Ranni.
Service to Lady Ranni.
I am the Witch Ranni.
But they never use her royal title, because she has renounced her claims to power in both the Golden Order and the Carian royalty. These refusals to accept absolute power echo the symbolism in Nokstella and the Lake of Rot. From the Golden Order to the Nox to the Carians themselves, this quest has shown us repeatedly that those who seek absolute power are not just vulnerable to corruption, but destined for it. The fact that Ranni's own sorceries echo this perspective imply that it is one that Ranni's character personally holds. There is further evidence of this in that the leader of the Black Knife assassins, Alecto, is imprisoned on the plateau. Ranni armed the assassins to escape her fate, and with the task accomplished, seems to have imprisoned their leader to prevent anyone, herself included, from wielding the full might of the assassins again. She relinquishes this power and takes measures to keep others from abusing it, just as she plans to do with the Elden Ring itself. This reading is supported by a final bit of dialogue with Ranni at her rise. If we rest at the sight of Grace in her chamber, you can speak with the little doll once more, and she tells us of the future she envisions for the lands between.
Mine will be an order not of gold, but the stars and moon of the chill night.
Symbolically positioning it as opposite the Golden Order ideologically. The Golden Order and other competing factions in the lands between represent invasions of unchecked power into the lives of the common people, literalized as outer gods like the Greater Will, the Goddess of Rot, and the Formless Mother. Ranni plans to do the opposite with her rule, to expel these powers and then leave the lands between.
As it is now, life and souls and order are bound tightly together. But I would have them at a great remove, and have the certainties of sight, emotion, faith, and touch all become impossibilities, which is why I would abandon this soil with mine order. Wouldst thou come to me even now, my one and only Lord?
She tells us this to ask whether we share her beliefs. Sadly, this future comes at a price. While the Black Knife assassins are scattered throughout the lands between, no longer acting in tandem, they are not harmless. Should we return to the Three Sisters after defeating the Baleful Shadow, we find Blythe finally driven mad by his competing loyalties to Ranni and the Two Fingers, surrounded by dead Black Knife assassins. He attacks, you fight, and you kill him. When you tell E.G. of Blythe's fate, he realizes a miscalculation in his estimation of Blythe. He did not necessarily turn on Ranni, but was instead driven mad by his continued loyalty.
Blythe became a curse that plagued Lady Ranni, yet even in madness, gave himself to her. I'll catch up with you soon enough, Blythe. When I do, I only hope you'll accept my apology.
He expects that he will join Blythe soon, and when you return to the area, you find he is right. E.G. is surrounded by more dead Black Knife assassins, consumed by the rune of Death's flame. It's unclear why the Black Knives came for E.G. and Blythe, as the remnants no longer seem to serve a single master or purpose. There are plenty of lore theorists interested in this question. I'm not. More importantly, they are a final symbolic sacrifice necessary for Ranni to manifest the Age of the Stars. Despite their loyalty to Ranni, Iji and Blythe represent the last ties to her dual Carrion and Golden lineage. Their deaths are a final, tragic act of service to her cause, allowing her to fully divest from her ancestral claims to power and establish her new order.
Now cometh the Age of the Stars. A 1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon.
All that remains now is to stand before the Elden Ring and claim the Elden Throne. After we defeat Malekith and Gideon and Godfrey and Radahn and the Elden Beast, we stand before Marika's shattered shell, as with the Reform endings. But with Ranni's quest done, we have another option, a blue summon sign for Ranni herself. This is a ludonarrative indicator that Ranni's ending is structurally different from the Reform endings. It signifies divestment from the Golden Order, a final confirmation of our agreement with Ranni's belief that a reformed Golden Order is an inadequate solution. The lands between should not be ruled by gods and their consorts. Absolute power without accountability. This belief is the logical conclusion of Ranni's quest. You defeat a symbol of cultural stagnation in a land ravaged by war. You explore the ruins of civilizations that the Golden Order subjugated and reclaim the legacy of their resistance to the greater will. You witness the corruption underlying all systems of power. You confirm your commitment to freeing the lands between from despots, even well-meaning ones.
Damn.
By pledging yourself to Ranni, and you rid the lands between of the greater will's influence before you leave with your Empyrean bride to wander the cosmos together. What happens to the lands between after we depart is as uncertain as with any of the endings, but we can be assured of this much. The people of the lands between will decide it for themselves.
Really quick, out of curiosity, do you think is a better waifu? Do you think Ranni is a better waifu, or do we got Gwendolyn for the PS1, the doll for Bloodborne, or the Firekeeper from Dark Souls 3?
I don't want to do this today, Wes. I know you're recording too, you fuck. Trying to get me to say like who my waifu is on camera.
I'm just trying to give us plenty of options for a cold open to this.
This sucks. I hate this. I hate this. Also, Gwendolyn's a twink, so like, not in the waifu category, okay? Canonically not in the waifu category.
Gwendolyn's a twink?
Yes. Gwendolyn is a son of Gwyn.
No, I'm talking about, who's the woman who's like laying on the bed in the PS1?
Oh, the like big titty gooner bait in Dark Souls 1? Yeah, that's Guinevere.
Guinevere, thank you. Sorry, Gwendolyn is the...
He's the Dark Moon guy.
That's right, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. All right, well, that's enough. There we go. Fell right for my trap.
God